Hi everyone, we are right in the middle of wild garlic season at the moment, which is fantastic. So I wanted to show you one of my absolute favourite recipes to use wild garlic. Now I did do a video earlier on to show you how to identify it, so just make sure that you're picking the right thing. Wild garlic does smell really strongly of garlic, it's pretty unmistakable. So what you need to do this recipe, I should tell you what it is first. It's a fermented wild garlic pesto. Now most people make just standard pesto, which is lovely as well, but you need oil to do that. If you do a fermented pesto, you have various advantages. First of all, it's cheaper, you don't need any oil. Second of all, it is fermented, and that means it's preserved for, I've still got some wild garlic pesto from last year. It's preserved for absolutely ages, whereas if you do a wild garlic pesto with oil, it's really good for say maybe a couple of weeks or so at most. Whereas I said wild garlic pesto just is indefinite, it's just preserved, and it's also probiotic, and it's got a really lovely flavour. It's got that lovely unique kind of umami kind of flavour, that wee fermented tang, which is just wonderful. So many reasons to make some fermented wild garlic pesto. So you'll need a bowl, roughly about 200 grams of it, a bowl full of wild garlic washed. And I tend to use, because I like to go for diversity points, so a mix of nuts and seeds. You need roughly about 100 grams, which is roughly about 3/4 of a cup of mixed nuts. I've got Brazil nuts and walnuts in here, and the same of mixed seeds. So about 100 grams of seeds. I've got sunflower and pumpkin seeds, and again it's just for the diversity points. You can just use single seeds, single nuts, it's up to yourself, but if you have got a variety, then use them because you get more health benefits. And what else we need is some salt, and I've got Himalayan pink salt, so any fine natural salt works really well. So that's literally all you need. And yeah, a glass jar, so roughly it's a small amount, so roughly a 500ml jar is fine. Now I'm going to use my food processor for this, just to blitz up the leaves a wee bit. If you don't have a food processor, you can bash them up, you can chop them up, or you can bash them in a pestle and mortar, but it takes a wee while because I've got a whole bowl full. So what I've got here is I'm going to put, and I've obviously washed my wild garlic, so I'm going to put them in my food processor first. I might need to bash them down a wee bit. I've got a wee bit of water, which is fine. Just put that in. Right, so what I'm going to do is just roughly blitz these down. Again, it just helps to push them down a wee bit. If you do have a food processor, you should use it because it really does save a lot of time. Right, there we go, that's perfect. Right, oh, the smell, right, so you can see it's just blitzed them up. So what we're going to do is add these into our bowl. It's such a fantastic, vibrant green colour. It smells absolutely wonderful. Right, so, right, we've got our wild garlic in there. Right, what we're going to do next, put that back on. We're going to add a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so a kind of heaped teaspoon. We're going to add that. What you should do, to be honest, if you've got a wee bit of time, is just give that a little mix in, and the salt will start to draw some of the moisture out of the wild garlic, and it creates a little brine. Right, but I don't really have time to hang about waiting, so what we'll do is we'll just give it a rough mix. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, we're going to add our mixed nuts and seeds to the food processor. Right, and what we're going to do again is just blitz them up roughly. You don't want to make them, blitz them into a powder, you want to have a few bits, so just pulse them a few times to break them up. I quite enjoy having them slightly rough, so you don't want to have a total powder. Then what you do after that is we're going to add our wild garlic back in. Now if I pick that up and squeeze it, you can see, oh my goodness, look at the colour, that's a fantastic colour. So if we pick that up, what we do is put that back in. Right, so we're going to scrape all of that back into the food processor. And what I'll do then is I'm going to add about a tablespoon of lemon juice. Right, and that will just get the pH down. It adds a slight more moisture as well. Oh, I'm all covered in wild garlic. Then, so it's all back in the food processor. Just give it a wee pulse to mix it all. And that should be it. Oh my goodness me, that smells wonderful. Right. Oh, that's lovely. Right, so what we do then is, that's it, to be honest, that's it done. And what we're going to do is put it in a jar. Oh, it does smell fantastic. Now, as you can see, we don't really have an awful lot of brine with this, which is fine. It's more like a paste. It's absolutely fine. And this is actually a really pretty short ferment as well. I usually do it for about 7 days. At room temperature, so I'll put that there. I've got my glass jar. What I'll do now is just pack it in. Now again, the mantra for fermenting veggies is under the brine and all is fine, but we don't really have an awful lot of brine. This is more of a paste, which is totally fine. So if we just squidge it in, so don't worry if you don't have a lot of brine, it's not that particularly briny. Right, and squash it in. Just do that. And again, if you do this, it just preserves the wild garlic for absolutely ages. If you do a standard pesto, as I said, you really need to use that within a couple of weeks. Plus, you don't have the probiotic benefits that you get from a fermented pesto. And as I've said, if you do the fermented version, it's actually cheaper because you don't need to bother with oil either. So I'll just put that over there. So what we need to do now is, let me just go and get a spoon. Right. Just get a little spoon and just press it in. We've got it all nice and even. So you can see that's just about the right amount for a 500ml jar. Now what I've done here is I've got like it's a cabbage leaf actually. I happen to have a cabbage, so I've trimmed it to the shape of the jar, and I'm just going to sit that on the top. Normally you would do, if you're fermenting like sauerkraut or anything, you would have a lot more brine and you need to keep everything underneath the brine. With this, because it is a paste, it's not quite so important, to be honest, and it's a short ferment as well. But I'm just going to sit a little cabbage leaf in the top, and that really just presses everything, keeps everything down, keeps everything safely underneath there. I'm going to clip the jar shut, and I'm going to leave that at room temperature for about 7 days. And then after that, that's going to taste absolutely delicious. It'll have a little fermented tang, it'll be nice and sour and a bit salty as well. And then what you can do is transfer it to other jars and store it in your fridge. But as I said, this makes a lovely wee gift for people actually. For some people that don't forage or whatever, if you give, you can put it into smaller jars and it really does make a lovely little gift. So I usually make loads of fermented pesto and give it to my friends over the springtime. So I hope you give that a go because it really is absolutely lovely and it's totally delicious.